Welcome to the Any Given Day podcast, your ultimate destination for all things college football. Join your hosts, Hunter and Zach, as they dive into the thrilling world of college football from the perspective of the fans. From game previews to post-game analysis, they will bring you the latest news, insights, and stories that make this sport so captivating. Join them every Tuesday and Friday as they explore the traditions, pageantry, and unforgettable moments that define college football. So whether you're a diehard fan or just getting into the game, get ready for a wild ride with the Any Given Day podcast.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Welcome back to another episode of the Any Given Day podcast. This episode, we're going to be doing our Week 10 review. Obviously, some very exciting news for some USC fans came out yesterday, I believe. Alex Grinch has finally been fired. Now, I know we've been calling for this on the podcast for at least the last 4 weeks.
At least.
And, it's great, honestly. They're going to have inside linebackers coach / assistant head coach Brian Odom and defensive line coach Sean Nua. They're going to share this role till the end of the season at least. Honestly, it's the best thing that could happen to USC at this point.
Yep.
Because it was getting ridiculous.
It really was.
I know I saw a stat, we were talking about it before the podcast, but USC's points allowed over the last 6 games is only like 20 points less than what Iowa has allowed over the last 2 seasons of college football. 24 games to 6.
Yep.
25 to 6,
right,
depending on if they play in a bowl game. So, wow. So, obviously, real big news. It's awesome news for USC fans. I'm sure they were ready for him to get out of there. What are your thoughts on the whole situation?
About time.
Time.
Honestly, it was just to say a word we like to throw around here a lot. The defense was anemic, always had been anemic under him. And to be fair to Grinch, when he was first hired by Lincoln Riley over at Oklahoma, he actually improved the defense over at Oklahoma. They still weren't world beaters, but it was good enough. However, something happened over the past few years, and they're not getting as many defensive recruits as they'd like. So,
yep.
and it feels like with him as coordinator, you had to have like the utmost talented defensive players in the country to actually go there to have a shot of it working, and they weren't. A good chunk of them are in the SEC, whether that's Alabama, Georgia, heck, sprinkled around Auburn and Florida. Some go to Clemson. I feel like most of the very defensive most of the top defensive talent ends up in the Southeast, not necessarily the Southeastern Conference, but they either end up there or in Oklahoma or Texas or sometimes Ohio State or Michigan. They don't typically stay out in California. So,
yeah, he's got a lot of talent on that team too, on that defense. So the fact that they've been as bad as they have been with the talent they do have says a lot.
Yeah. It's just been terrible. Honestly, it's about time for this, and should have happened probably after last year.
Yeah.
Didn't. I think I heard it best from Josh Pate a day or two ago, yesterday I think, that every team has a bounce back game against USC's defense. That's how bad it was. And we'll get into the stats that Washington put up against them a little bit later, but I was thinking about going through some possible replacements for USC, and you have to think that's got to be an appealing job. because they are a blue blood, formerly a blue blood. I don't know if they're much blue blooded anymore, but
Right.
it's got to be appealing because, well, I'm sure for some people, some people also don't like the massive tax that comes out of their money over in California, but that's neither here nor there.
Right.
So but it would basically be a slingshot for like young and upcoming coordinators or coordinators that think they've proven themselves but for some reason aren't getting a shot. So I'm thinking like Jim Leonhard, however you pronounce. I think it's Leonard. Weird way to pronounce it, but either way, he was the interim head coach up at Wisconsin last year. Before that, he was the defense coordinator. He really had their defense going, consistently top 5 in total defense and top 10 in scoring defense up at Wisconsin while he was the defense coordinator. So I think that would be like the home run hire because I think he's like one of the best available defensive minds. And right now he's just a senior defensive analyst over at Illinois. So maybe you swing for the fences for him. If not him, I would say Tony Gibson over at NC State. He's got experience running an air raid defense because he used to be the defense coordinator for Dana Holgorsen. And let me make this very clear: running an air raid defense basically means you have an idea of how to handle the defense for a team that is trying to get their offense on and down the field as quick as possible with the pass game. Not just that, risking interceptions and the like. So he's got experience with that, and right now he's got NC State. He's their defense coordinator, and he's got them number 9 in the nation in third down defense, number 5 in interceptions, and number 40 in the nation in yards per play allowed.
Not
So
bad.
I think he would be like second choice just because he's got experience with those air raid defenses. Another name, possibly Danton Lynn, Crosstown, UCLA. He's their current defense coordinator. He's a rookie DC, but he's already flipped UCLA's defense. They were 72nd last year. And now all of a sudden they're the 9th ranked defense in the country. It's stupid how crazy they've gotten. And not just that, but they lead the Pac-12 in run defense and sacks. And they've also allowed the fewest plays of 20 yards plus 20 plus yards at 22. That's the least allowed. That's the fewest in the Pac-12. And that's 40 less than USC's current defense has allowed. So that would be a solid pickup. And then you also got Tony White over at Nebraska. And he's basically flipped them from one of the worst defenses in the Big Ten. I think they were 13th to one of the best. And they were like 13th in run defense. Now they're up to number 2. And they were number 10 last year in sacks to number 2 in sacks this year. So the only thing with Tony White, and just my opinion, is he's known for running a 3-3-5 scheme. And that works in high school, but it doesn't. We saw what happened to TCU last year with a 3-3-5. It doesn't work.
No, not at all.
Work if you're trying to get to championship contending. So I would be hesitant, but he's proven that he can go and make a defense better. Maybe that's all he's got to do, I think a few other names that you could probably go with are Tim DeRuyter from Texas Tech. He's their defense coordinator. They're currently number 44 in the in the nation with yards per play allowed. You've got Joe Rossi up at Minnesota, and he's sitting weird. He's had them ranked in the top 10 in like fewest plays of 20 plus yards allowed for the past few years, past 4 seasons. And then you got and this one's, and I had to write this one down, so to be fair, I've been looking at notes the entire time. Is what it is. Joe Harasimiak, Rutgers defense coordinator. He's actually improved them a lot. They rank number 10 in total defense and number 2 in fewest plays of 20 yards or more allowed, behind only Iowa. So those are just a few names. You know, like I said, I think Leonard would be the home run hire. I think Gibson would be a very, very close second. And I think, depending on who you ask, he might be the preferred choice just because of the air raid defense experience that he does have. But, yeah, I just... sorry for just going on and on there.
Good.
It was a lot.
Like I said in the beginning, I mean, it's just, all in all, it's good that Alex Grinch is gone, because not that he's a terrible coach, it's just whatever he's been doing hasn't been working, and at some point you got to make a change. And hopefully this change will be better for USC.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, I know everybody's tired of talking about Michigan. I know everybody's tired of hearing about it and tired of hearing about all this news. But hopefully we're coming to an end, because some stuff's about to go down.
Yep.
The Big Ten has given notice to Michigan that there will be the possibility of some disciplinary action over the coming days.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been some sources talking about Michigan possibly filing a suit against the Big Ten because it's detrimental to their season for them to dole out suspensions and stuff now. And I mean, you do the crime, you do the time, but like,
yep.
I get it, and I'm ready for us to find out what the NCAA and what the Big Ten is going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because basically the Big Ten's got all their coaches down their throats going, do something, because this is egregious. And the NCAA and Big Ten are just sitting there going, we'll wait. And now the Big Ten's kind of had their hand forced, and they're going to have to do something, or else there's going to be some big backlash, bigger than whatever's going to be coming.
Yep. I think the thing you have to watch out for is, I don't think, if Michigan does end up... So, first off, with the coaches and the Big Ten president, this is his first year in charge of the Big Ten. So he's basically a rookie when it comes to this. And all of a sudden, he's got all the head coaches and all the athletic directors from all these other schools jumping on him. You got to do something. You got to do something about this. This was egregious. This was terrible. This hasn't been done before. It probably has. Michigan just got caught.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if this has happened before, but I don't think it's ever been to this degree, this level. And then you also have to realize Michigan might file the lawsuit if the Big Ten does come down with a suspension, a punitive suspension, I think is what they call it, or whatever it might be the legal term. If they come down with it,
I believe so.
Michigan would immediately file the lawsuit, and they would do that to go and fight it off until the conference championship, possibly the playoffs, if they are still in playoff contention by that point. But the moment the season's over, and they're going to draw it out as long as possible to make sure it does not get to discovery. But once the season's over, they'll drop it, and they'll be like, okay, we'll take it, whatever. And then, because they do not want that thing to get to Discovery. That thing gets to Discovery, all hell's going to break loose. Because Michigan cannot afford that. Because I guarantee if they dig in Discovery, they're going to find a lot more stuff that's worse than what Stallions did. And that's going to... that could make it even worse for Michigan. So I think they'll file the lawsuit, and they won't really try for it. They'll keep, we'll appeal for it to get extended and extended and extended until after the season, and then they'll take the suspension or whatever. That's their plan. But the Big Ten could press it. I don't know.
They probably will press it because they're going to have, like they already do, they're going to have all the ADs and coaches kind of down their throats telling them this something has to be done, and they're going to be pushing and pushing and pushing. Honestly, I know that before I never thought the death penalty would ever be used again because of what it did to SMU and how bad it destroyed that program.
Yep.
But the more that comes out about Michigan, the more egregious it gets every time. And they're really pushing hard on that line. I know the NCAA said they'd never use it again, but they are pushing real hard against that line of just egregious cheating.
Yeah.
To this extent. It seems like it's getting more and more close to a possibility of something really bad happening for Michigan. So I think they're definitely going to fight it as long as they can. If this is going to be their last big chance for a couple of years at a national championship, they're going to fight it. They're going to fight it hard.
So I don't think I've ever seen the NCAA just come out and say, "Oh, we don't ever plan on using the death penalty again." They've used it. They've used it before since SMU, just not in football. So
right,
it's
that's
just
something really egregious.
It has. They're hesitant to because of that. But if it's egregious enough, and if Michigan does file that lawsuit, and Big Ten forces it into the court, forces it to get to Discovery before Michigan can back off, which I think Michigan would back off before and take the suspension before they let it get to Discovery. If the Big Ten tried to push for it to get to Discovery before the conference championship, I think they would actually take the suspension willingly at that point. Because I think if they do dig deep in Discovery, you're going to find something that could get them the death penalty. That's just a thought, but it's just what I'm thinking.
I mean, yeah, obviously we don't know anything, but it's definitely a possibility. So they're going to try and push it back as far as they can until it gets to a point where it's going to destroy the program if they don't, and they're just going to have to take whatever they're given at that point. But
yeah,
I mean, like I said, I know everybody's tired of talking about it, and we're tired of talking about it.
We are. We really are.
It seems like every freaking episode, something else has come out on Michigan, and it's
on repeat. It's on repeat. It feels like.
When is it going to end?
Yeah. Well, not anytime soon, because NCAA is also now joining the investigation for Central Michigan, and Stallions being on the sideline for that, which could lead to trouble for them.
So what I'm hearing is we'll talk about this next episode some more.
Probably. When
inevitably some more news comes out. So be ready to hear more about Michigan next episode. To get away from that for you guys. And for my sake. Let's talk about some football that happened this weekend. A lot of big games, a lot of interesting games. Obviously, Washington beats USC in a dogfight, 52-42. Penix didn't do, fantastic.
I mean,
but it was not a bad game by any margin.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised he got a rushing touchdown. Didn't
he have 0 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, he was none, and now he's got 1. So, still negative 4 yards for the game though. He got sacked a few times. I'll give the defense credit for that. But the big story in this game was Dylan Johnson 26 carries,
Big game.
256 yards, 4 touchdowns on the ground. The hilarious thing is, and this is how bad that USC defense was, and Dylan Johnson's probably the reason Grinch lost his job. Dylan Johnson never had a game over 100 yards rushing in his career at the collegiate level till this game. And then he goes 256 for 4 touchdowns. Just incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Very good game.
Mhm.
And like we said, I mean, USC's defense has been anemic all year long. I want to get your take on something. So obviously after the game, there's been kind of a controversy on Twitter, I guess you could call it a controversy, or X or whatever the heck it's called now.
Oh, I know where you're going.
Yeah. So obviously after the game, Caleb Williams goes up to, I believe, his mother and gets in the stands and starts crying, right, because they lost.
Yep.
And RG3 says, gets on X and says, well, showing emotion, this is what GMs, this is what scouts, this is what they look for. You already thought he was the best player in the draft. Now this makes him even more draftable. And I don't remember who responded. I want to say it was the head coach from Last Chance U, like season 2. You remember that show?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was him. And he said, no, makes him undraftable. He's a pansy. What's your take?
So I do see both sides of it. I played 4 years of football in high school.
Mhm.
And I was lucky enough to, my freshman year and my senior year, be one of the last teams standing and win state championships both of those years. But when you win a state championship your freshman year, it sets the wrong standard in a way. Like it's the
Mhm.
standard you want to live to, right? You want to win the state title each and every year in high school or district or whatever it is, depending on what state you are. In Georgia, it was the state championship. So the next year when we went to the state championship game and we lost, it was like, oh, well, this sucks. It's whatever.
Right.
So that year I wasn't really necessarily affected by it as much as I think I could have been. Did it suck? Yes. And I'm not going to lie, I cried a bit after, but, is what it is. The one that really sucked, though, was the year after, my junior year. This was the first time my school had not made it to the state championship game in 5 or 6 years. Yes, I know, we were very spoiled. But
no kidding.
We didn't even make it to the semifinals. I think we got knocked out in the third round. So right before the quarterfinals, I think. And oh boy, that one was rough for a lot of different reasons. It was Thanksgiving week. We left down to go all the way down to Savannah, Thanksgiving Day. We spent the night at a hotel, and we just got destroyed that night. It was no one, I think, expected for us to lose that game, and we did. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, and it was so raw because you're going into a moment where you realize, oh, for me it was, okay, that was my junior year. I'm fixing to be a senior, and so every game from that point out counts because once you get past a certain amount of games, you're counting down to your last game. And it was scary. It was a realization. So I think that might be something that Caleb Williams might have realized. Oh, he's counting down to the last bit of his college career because he's going to the draft this year. There's no way he doesn't. However, I will also, so I do understand that him wanting to cry like that, that's emotions get high in games like that because he probably just lost a chance to go to the Pac-12 championship. He probably just lost any chance they ever even had of going to the playoffs. That squashed. it was already squashed. Let's face it, but still.
Yeah, but still.
But this is also the same guy that last year went on Twitter and basically made fun of Max Duggan for getting emotional and crying. So, I don't know, man. I just, like, kind of hypocritical, you know?
Yeah. I mean, this is why I wanted your opinion, because I never played football in high school or anything like that. So I wanted the perspective of a person that's been through that and been through losses and winning. And obviously, I know you won a couple state championships. So
Yeah.
just that experience of winning and then losing.
It's
I wanted your opinion on whether it was okay or if it was soft.
I think all in all, I think it's okay. I just, the one thing that's holding me back from it is from any other and every other player. I think it's perfectly fine because it means you love this game. It's just,
Right.
it is kind of funny that, he takes a crack at Duggan about crying last year. And then all of a sudden,
Right.
and the thing with Duggan is he very well could have lost out on his career because of that entire heart condition he had. So I think for him, it was very emotional. Each and every game is going to be emotional because with that thing, you don't know how long your career is going to last, which right now it should last a while. He's in the NFL. I think he's backing up Herbert. I think he's backing up Herbert. He might be the third stringer practice squad. He's somewhere in the NFL. So
Right.
is what it is. Just it can get very emotional. Especially for these guys who don't end up, they know they're not going to the NFL and they know they're not going to really try for it. That last moment you put those pads on when you're done, when the game's over, that's when it's the heaviest in a sense.
Right. I get that.
It's, oh boy, let's can we move on?
Yeah.
Please.
Obviously, Caleb Williams played his heart out in that game.
Yes.
Really good game. Just defense couldn't keep up. So, obviously, Washington beats USC. USC's playoff and Pac-12 championship hopes are done, and Washington's stay alive.
Yes.
Moving on to Arkansas defeating Florida. Florida's bowl hopes are getting more and more
Oof.
down the drain at this point.
Just oof. They've got they got LSU, Missouri.
That's a loss. Missouri's a loss.
And then Florida State.
Florida State's a loss. Okay.
So I don't think they're going to the bowl this year unless they do not have enough 6-win teams. Then they'll probably get a look at it then, but
they'll get a look at the toilet bowl. Still a bowl.
Maybe the Gator Bowl.
No. What are the chances?
That'd be hilarious.
What are the chances?
Or just send them up to the Pinstripe Bowl to be a sacrifice for Rutgers.
God. Yeah, obviously, I think what 2 weeks ago, a week ago, Dan Enos was fired.
Yeah,
it's a week ago, right?
No, 2 weeks ago because they hit the bye week and then they
have okay.
So they fired him after their last game. They had the bye week last week. They played Florida,
and then they come this week. Okay, KJ Jefferson has looked the best he has all year.
Yep.
255 in the air and 2 touchdowns, another 92 on the ground and a touchdown on the ground.
Yeah. He
really good game from them.
Rocket Sanders was back.
Arkansas's offense was the best it's been in all year.
Yeah.
So that's good. Florida's special teams was atrocious, which it had been up to that point all year anyways.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what else do you expect for Florida to choke away a bowl game? Couldn't have happened to a better team.
You're letting your bias show.
No, I'm just saying it couldn't have happened to a better team.
I'm not going to judge Billy Napier until after next year or midway through next year, depending. Because he's got, I think if I remember correctly, he's got a top 5 recruiting class in the country this year going into next
Third,
year.
I believe.
So, you give him a year. You're not even looking at putting him on the hot seat this year, and then you're going to go and
Shouldn't be.
I think you give him next year and the year after that, and because once that second year after that class comes in, that's going to be the year where a lot of those guys might start getting reps and seeing playing time. So, yeah.
I agree. Moving on to some exciting rivalry trophy news.
Woo!
As much as I hated Air Force winning because I really wanted them to go undefeated and get a shot at a New Year's Six bowl, just
Yep.
because it'd be cool to see one of the military schools make it to a New Year's Six game. But Army whooped up on them, which means the Commander-in-Chief trophy will be decided in the Army-Navy game. What else? Beautiful.
It's amazing.
Go Navy, beat Army.
Go Army, beat Navy. Army has a chance to win the
I mean, it's
thing.
not going to happen.
Army has a chance to win this thing. So I like with the history of the Army in my family, I got to pull for Army. My grandfather served.
No, yeah, same thing for me.
Yeah. My great uncle served in Nam. My grandfather served at D-Day. So we are very much
Yep.
Army people here in this household.
Yep, Oh yeah, my grandfather was in the Navy during World War II,
Mhm.
so I'm
Yeah.
I'm obligated. Do I think Navy will beat Army this year? We'll get into that later this year
Maybe.
on our special Army versus Navy week episode.
I don't know what else we're going to fill that episode with besides the Army Navy. I guess we could rank our all-time
Army Navy history.
Sure, why not? We'll
It's
figure
gonna be
it
a whole
out.
episode.
We'll figure it out. Maybe we do
It's gonna be the whole episode.
a top 10 or top 5 all-time Army Navy game unis.
That sounds beautiful.
I know.
We'll talk about this later.
Yes.
Obviously, Air Force got whooped by Army.
Oof.
Whooped them. I mean, it was bad.
It was.
23-3. Obviously, Air Force will be cheering for Navy this year so they can keep the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. But what can you do? Army whoops up on Air Force. Air Force's dreams have been slashed. Speaking of slashed dreams, though, how about Arizona?
The Wildcats.
Upset number 19 UCLA. Now, in my mind, only a matter of opinion, not an upset. Arizona was the better team. Arizona has been a very good team all year.
Yes.
UCLA has been up and down. Their defense has been very great. Offense, not so much. Arizona's
Surprisingly.
offense has been electric for most of the year. They're not scoring Washington or Oregon numbers on offense, but they're being very consistent and they're beating a lot of good teams.
Yeah. They gave USC
So I'm not even going to pronounce his name because
Noah
every
Fafita.
time we see it, I can't pronounce it. So I'm going to thank you.
Noah Fafita.
Really great game.
Really great game.
Again.
And you got to remember, Arizona gave USC one heck of a scare a while back. They should have probably won that game. Just couldn't finish it off, and I think if it had, I can't remember, I think that was at Memorial Coliseum too. So I think if that had been at,
It was.
I think if that had been at Arizona, they probably pulled the upset. But yeah, Fafita looked great. Jonah Coleman got 77 yards on the ground. Let me try to pronounce this first name. Tateroa McMillan. McMillan.
McMillan.
McMillan,
The dude who led their team in receiving yards
Yes.
this game.
and a touchdown. So, yeah, he looked great. I'll give you a chance at redemption on these next two names.
Jacob Coing.
Going or cowing? I was calling him cowing.
Or
earlier.
cowing.
It might be cowing.
I don't know. And Montana Lamonius Craig.
Hey, you got one.
What a name. It's almost as good as Squirrel.
I'm gonna nickname Montana Shocker, just cause.
God.
No.
I mean-
No, it's nothing bad. It's nothing bad. No, Shocker in the like Spider-Man comics. I think in some instances his actual name is Montana. So
I see.
get your mind out of the gutter, young man.
I just didn't know, but you never know. Obviously, UCLA had some quarterback issues in this game, though. Ethan Garber's having a decent game, gets hurt. Dante Moore comes in the game, gets hurt. Then Colin Schlee, who was 0-for-5, was kind of in as the change of pace quarterback until both their quarterbacks got hurt.
Yep.
And they said, well, get in there, big guy. You're our guy now.
He was the leading rusher for the team too.
46 yards.
It's
Yeesh.
it's astounding that Chip Kelly offense. If this had been in the NFL, I wouldn't be surprised. His offense did not translate well to the NFL. However, he was always known as an offensive guru at the collegiate level. I don't know what's happening this year at all. It's so weird.
It ain't right.
I'm just not used to this happening.
Right.
What I will say is we wish a speedy recovery to both Garbers and Moore. But back to Arizona, Jedd Fisch, he's turning this program around. He really is. There's no other way to say it. He's doing what everyone thought Deion was going to do at Colorado. And that's not to say Deion's doing a bad job. Maybe a bit of overreacting.
No, I mean, they quadrupled their wins at Colorado, which is not bad.
Yeah, no, but I think he let the hype get to him about Colorado, whereas Jedd
Fisch is
just
sorry.
Jedd Fisch is just saying like even keeled, you know. So
yeah, I agree. I mean, Jedd Fisch has done a much better job. Not that it's necessarily Deion's fault, but is it just me, or does it seem like quarterbacks are getting hurt a lot more frequently this year?
Oh,
I mean, Riley Leonard obviously getting hurt. Both Ethan Garbers and Dante Moore in this game. Another quarterback we'll get to later in the episode.
Well, let's just say it, Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
We'll get to him later, but still.
I mean, it seems like there's a lot of quarterbacks getting hurt this year. I don't know if is it just recency bias, or is there a whole lot more quarterbacks getting hurt this year than normal?
I'm going to say recency bias. And I'm also going to throw out a little conspiracy theory for the two of us. No. Just hear me out. So, up till the point we started this podcast, how much attention did you pay to teams outside of Georgia? Outside of the SEC in general?
Okay. Outside the SEC, I watched Oregon. I got to look at Oregon.
Exactly. Now, all of a sudden, we're... sorry to the people listening or watching. YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. That's where you can find us. There's a mid-pod plug. Anyways, how much till this did you go and actually watch outside? Not that much, right? I didn't watch that much outside of Georgia up until we started this. With this, all of a sudden, though, with this podcast, all of a sudden we are having to go and we're having to watch everyone. We're having to keep track of everyone. So all of a sudden it seems like, oh, there's a lot more injuries this year. Maybe not so much. Maybe so much that maybe not so much that so much as it is that we're actually opening our eyes to everyone and really seeing.
Paying attention.
Yeah. we're not just focused. We're not zoned in on one team, you know. So that I think that's what it is.
It's entirely possible.
So I think if anyone kind of opens up their eyes to the entirety of the collegiate football world, you'll notice a lot more injuries than you think.
Right.
So
Quinn Ewers, another quarterback that's been injured this year.
Yep.
Goodness gracious. From one upset to another now, I know we were both very adamant that this game was going to go one way.
Yep.
And it did not.
We were wrong.
Clemson upsets number 15 Notre Dame 31-23, with Cade Klubnik only throwing 109 yards, 1 touchdown and interception. Awful completion percentage.
Yep.
But Phil Maffa, 36 carries, 186 yards, 2 tutties. That was about all they did. Jeremiah Trotter, 2 sacks, another INT, which was returned for a touchdown. Sam Hartman is slowly falling apart.
Yep. That's that's the real tragedy here. He started off the season as like, I think Loki is one of the Heisman favorites with that game against was it Navy? Yeah, it was Navy or whoever it was they faced over in Ireland.
Navy.
It was Navy. Okay, couldn't remember.
It was.
Anyways, or was it? Yeah,
it was Navy.
Yeah, it was Navy this year. Anyways, he started off real hot this year, and then it's just like he's struggled for the past few weeks. It seems. You hate to see it, but it is what it is at this point. I
mean, it's bad. Second week in a row with no passing touchdowns, right?
I think
second or third time.
Yeah, it was. It honestly, it just feels like the second or third time, like this season, that he's done this, where he's had multiple interceptions and no touchdowns through the air. I mean, he's still got like a touchdown on the ground, but it's just, I don't know. I really don't know.
He's
at this
all over
point.
the place.
I guess at the end of the day, Tyler from Spartanburg just fired Dabo and the Clemson team up.
Yeah.
Take on.
Maybe that's what Dabo needed.
Maybe that was a kick to the butt that he needed. They found a way to win without Will Shipley. I'm surprised they did, but this was good for them because they found a way to win without their best player. That's always good if a team can figure that out. We'll talk a bit more about that kind of play later on when we get to Georgia Mizzou, but it is kind of relieving in a way to see that Clemson can find a way to win without Shipley. And apparently that's
You don't think Cade Klubnik is their best player? It was a joke. It was a joke.
I mean, to be fair, he might be, but I don't know. I think Phil Maffa might be coming for that right now.
Dang. All right. Any closing thoughts on that game?
Not. I guess one. I'm slightly shocked. I say I'm slightly shocked that Death Valley went and was as loud as it was Saturday for a noon kickoff. But then again, that is one of the better college environments. And it doesn't matter the time, the place. If they go and they've got a big game that's going to be played there, they will be loud, they'll be ready, they'll be a few deep, and then they'll let the opposing team and players have it. So, yeah.
Yeah. They were definitely ready this week. So, another team, though, that I thought was ready and showed up and was ready and then left and came back about overtime. Texas, number 7 Texas, defeating K-State 33-30. Now, at one point, they were up, I believe, 27-7. And I went, I was right. Texas is going to beat K-State, and it's going to be bad. And then I checked it again like 30 minutes later, and I was like, oh, it's 28 to 21. And I went, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And then they kick a field goal and send it to overtime. And then one of the dumbest plays I've ever seen. You got Texas on their heels. You took them to overtime. You make Texas kick a field goal. And instead of kicking a field goal and putting the game on the arm of Malik Murphy, who has done nothing to prove he can win this game, you go for it on like 4th and 8. And you lose the football game.
That's how it be sometimes, buddy. That really is.
K-State should have won that football game.
Trust me. I felt it. Because I had K-State pick to win. If they just showed up for the first half, I probably would.
Well, they would have won that football game.
Oh, yeah. And I would not be tied with you right now.
Ha! I'm good now.
You sure? You sure you got it all out?
You'll see.
Oh, dear God. That does not bode.
You're lucky I don't have the music downloaded right now.
Sure. Sure I am.
You're lucky. Or do I? No, I'm just kidding. I don't. Malik Murphy really didn't look good, though, in this game. I mean, A.D. Mitchell had a good game, 8 receptions, 149 yards, touchdown. Jonathan Brooks, another good game on the ground. Like you said, though, if K-State shows up to this game in the first half, I don't think Texas survives.
It's just, I think Texas might be, without Ewers, they might be overrated at this point.
Very.
I think without Quinn Ewers, they're a top 20 team, maybe a top 15. I don't think they're a top 10 team without him, but they're not going to pull them back right now. And we'll get more into that later, but yeah.
I think they're top 12, maybe top 10 with Malik Murphy. You put Quinn Ewers in there, they're top 5, maybe top 4.
I know. No.
Yep.
No.
It's called an opinion.
I mean, you can have that, but
and
you're
I
wrong.
have one.
Actually, you were wrong on that.
Factually, you're wrong, all right? Just because they lost to Oklahoma, who we'll get into later, does not mean that Texas is a bad football team.
Texas is a better team. They had an off day for that game. Yes. Do I think they're top 5? No.
With Quinn Ewers, yes.
With Quinn Ewers, no.
Yes.
We'll get into this a bit later, but yeah. The next game is Ole Miss defeating Texas A&M 38-35.
Shouldn't have happened.
What shouldn't have happened?
Texas A&M should have won this football game.
Yes, but it's Jimbo.
They didn't. Yeah, Jimbo's got a Jimbo, I guess.
He's overpaid. I think everyone agrees to that. And I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the moment the oil tycoons just bite in and they're like, screw it, we'll pay the buyout. Just get him away from our team.
That accent was beautiful. That authentic Texas accent.
I feel like I might have offended someone.
No, you probably did.
Probably.
But it's fine. It's fine.
Well, not as bad as my Irish.
Holy
we ain't
Jackson
going into that.
Dart.
Yeah. Oh, that Jackson Dart. Yeah, we'll go into that.
Holy Jackson Dart. 387 yards and 2 tutties.
Yep.
God, They really held Quinshawn Judkins, though, only to 102 yards.
Only to 102 yards. He still got 3 touchdowns
Good
though.
Lord. Trey Harris, 213. I need to start reading these notes. Trey Harris, 213 yards receiving. Fantastic game.
Yep. End of the day, it very much proved one thing, that Lane Kiffin, no matter what, he finds a way to get the ball in the end zone. He is a great offensive mind. I dare say he's the best offensive mind in the country at this point. Maybe Lincoln Riley's a better offensive mind, but I think that depends on whether or not you like the air raid or not. So,
Hot take here. All right.
Oh no.
Lincoln Riley is the better offensive. Like, if you were to make them both offensive coordinators, Lincoln Riley is the better offensive coordinator, right? Lane Kiffin is the better head coach, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
Okay. Glad we're on the same page.
Although I will say this, I think I would prefer to have Lane Kiffin as an offense coordinator in the SEC.
Yes, if we're talking SEC football, yeah. I'd rather have Mike Bobo.
Yes. He's not failed us
In
yet.
Bobo we trust. No, in Bobo we
In
trust.
Bobo we trust.
But
Those B and B boys. Bobo and Becca and Powers.
I've never thought of that.
Yes.
And that upsets me.
Well, the Triple B.
Big baller brand.
We might get sued. I want to say this. I don't think Max Johnson for A&M had a bad game.
Really good game, actually.
Yeah, I mean, he had the 1 interception, but other than that, over 300 yards passing, a touchdown on the ground, a touchdown through the air. He looked great, and everyone has to remember he was a second string guy. So I do wonder how different this season is if Wegman's healthy. If that's kind of in the back of my mind, no matter what. I think because of that, and a close call like this, because if A&M goes and beats Ole Miss, a top 10 team in the country, Jimbo's automatically safe for another year. Right now, I think he might be on the hot seat. They might finally say, screw it at the end of the year, pay him, get him away. Like I said earlier, they might finally say it. But I don't know. It is starting to kind of be there at the back of my mind, like, hey, what would have happened if Wegman didn't get injured against Auburn? Is what it is at this point, though. You can't really change that. I will say this also proves that Ole Miss does not have a good defense. Nowhere near as bad as USC's. They're a pretty solid defense, all things considered, but they're probably towards the back half in the SEC rankings. So it's just, can that defense stop Georgia's offense, and can that offense score on Georgia's defense next week? Speaking of, the next game is Georgia, number 2 Georgia, beating number 12 Mizzou, 30-21, 9 points. The spread was 15.5. And I'll say this. I think you take the bias out of it. I think if you had a bit more, I try not to ever blame refs for anything, but I'm still trying to figure out how a ball that is snapped on the 50, right? That's where it was snapped at. I will give them that. And then a personal foul at the same spot, that it should be a 15-yard penalty, right? how that gets
Theoretically.
enforced and put all the way to the 30-yard line. Maybe it's a spot foul, I guess, from the spot of the foul, because I think it happened at the 45 where the blindside block was. And it's so
the interception.
yeah, on Big Nas's interception. Poor dude. Poor dude. He was not
That's my boy.
expecting to have to run
That's
that
my
much.
boy right there.
He was not expecting to have to run that much in that short of a time. He was not expecting that. But no, Georgia just I would make an argument that this was Beck's worst game because he only put up 254 yards. But I don't think he's not going to beat himself. And this offense is not going to beat themselves. I think that is the big thing we're slowly but surely learning in this year with this team, with this Georgia team. But I will also say, Ladd McConkey, holy crap. He's special.
Yeah, he had a really good game. And Missouri had a really good game, too. I mean, Missouri played really, really good.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not just like Georgia played a bad game. Georgia played a good game, and so did Missouri. It was just a hard-fought battle. I mean,
and
obviously Georgia really focused in on Luther Burden and held him to 53 yards and a touchdown. Well,
I want to say something about that. That might have been the key thing that won Georgia this game on Monday, right? Because that was around the time, and this is coming from Tyke Smith himself. I think he was asked about it earlier today, and he said, yeah, they came up to me like Monday, and they're like, hey, we're thinking about doing this. We're thinking about going and kind of having Kamari go and play inside at the nickelback spot over the slot where you normally play, and we're thinking about basically having you come off the bench this week. We'd put Julian Humphrey across from Dalen and then go from there. And so that one big reception that Burden had, that 39-yard catch for the touchdown, Kamari was not covering him for that.
No, it was Dalen.
Yeah, it was Dalen Everett. And so the other two receptions that Burden got, 14 yards on those two receptions. So
yep,
Kamari had him clamped down. Kamari, as far as I'm concerned, is a first-round pick. But like you said earlier about Mizzou, Brady Cook, Cody Schrader, they both had a really great game. And Eli Drinkowitz, I think he's starting to really prove himself as a very valuable name in the coaching world. And I think how they carry themselves after this season and into next will determine whether or not they kind of move up a tier, if you will. I think right now they're trying to get to that tier next to LSU. I think there's 2 tiers above Mizzou right now. I think you got LSU in a tier by themselves, and then above them you've got where Alabama and Georgia are. So, and I think right now they're trying to move up to like along next to LSU as one of those teams that can go and, it's not going to be an every year thing, but one year they might screw around and get to the SEC championship, win it, be undefeated, and they could be in national title contention.
Right.
And I think that would be great, not just for the SEC, but college football as a whole. Because I think, like I said, Drink has really impressed me. Granted, he lost his temper a bit on some of those calls by the refs, but to be fair, so did we.
No, yeah.
So you kind of have to as a coach when you think you were wrong. So it is what it is. I will say this: he's earned a tremendous amount of respect from me over this entire season.
Yeah, I mean, he's really turned Missouri around, considering where they were a couple years ago. So
yeah, Sorry.
I mean, good for him.
Really good,
Good for him. Good for Missouri. Always like having more competitive teams in the conference,
Yep.
anyways. So it's nice to have a little bit of competition. So very good for them. Speaking of competition, though, this was a heck of a game for about a half.
I'd say half and a quarter. Too.
Half and a drive
Yeah.
of football.
Once Jaden Daniels got taken out, Bama beating LSU people 42-28. I don't think the score dictates how close it actually was for most of the game. Because once Jaden Daniels got taken out, I think he got put in concussion protocol.
That sucks.
Yeah, it really does. He had the one interception, but it looked like they might have been starting to mount another drive, another touchdown on the drive that he got injured on, which I kind of want to jump in and say I do not think Dallas Turner intentionally injured him. I do not think it was a dirty hit. Could it have been called targeting by the
letter of the law? Yes.
I think so. By how they've called it before, yes. Do I think roughing the passer might have been the best call they could have made at that point? Yes.
Yes. But it was not a dirty hit
No.
by any means.
No, that's just football.
It's just football.
Yeah. I think the other thing to really note from this game is Bama has finally figured out how to use Jalen Milroe.
Yeah.
This.
Oh, yeah. That was the best the Bama offenses looked all year long.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, he didn't throw a lot. I mean,
219
only 219 yards, which is not bad by any means. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, this quarterback stats have been so convoluted over the last couple of years. If somebody doesn't throw for 350 yards, you think it's a bad game. 219 yards is still a very respectable game with a very respectable completion percentage.
Yes.
But then you turn around and see 20 carries for 155 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground.
Yep.
You go, okay, well, that's where that went.
Yep.
I can see why he only threw for 219 yards.
Yeah. I mean, Jaden Daniels was right there with him, though. He had 11 carries for 163 yards. Not as many touchdowns, though, but still, he outrushed him, which I'm actually kind of shocked by. Like, I know...
They almost have the same exact stat line.
I mean, not really, but...
Jaden Daniels only threw one more, like, passing.
Oh.
Jaden Daniels only threw one more pass
Yeah, fair.
than Milroe did.
Yeah, but he also threw an interception, and he had far
No,
less...
you don't talk
I
about
know.
interceptions.
I like messing with you, though. Did you see that one catch Malik Neighbors made?
Yes.
Holy crap! His foot was fixing to go back. It was fixing to go out of bounds. It would have been an incomplete pass because he would have been out of bounds, and he just moves it in, like, boom, plants it, and he's in bounds, and it was a thing of beauty.
Oh, it was beautiful. I don't know how he did that.
No, dear Lord knows I wouldn't be able to do that.
We're also both much bigger than Malik Neighbors is.
Yeah.
I wish I was as young and nimble as Malik Neighbors is.
But both of us do. I think the big thing is Alabama has gotten better and better each and every week, which in theory should make the possibility of them versus Georgia in the SEC championship a fun matchup. It really should be.
Yeah. I mean, obviously nothing's official yet.
Not yet.
Don't get ahead of yourself. Now, don't get ahead of yourself.
No, it won't be. Except, if Georgia goes and... So, for Alabama to be
Georgia beats Ole Miss.
For Alabama to be locked in, they have to either beat Kentucky, go figure, like, that's kind of a no-brainer, or Ole Miss has to lose next week. For Georgia to be locked in, they have to beat Ole Miss. Or they have to beat Tennessee the next week. So Georgia, if they beat Ole Miss, which that's going to be a 7:00 kickoff at Sanford. It's going to be pitch black outside besides the lights. That crowd's going to be rowdy, loud.
It's gonna be beautiful.
As a Georgia fan, yes, it will be beautiful.
Paint the skies red.
Jesus, we're not supposed to be being biased right now.
I don't get any Georgia night games, point blank period, ever. All right. Ever. When's the last time that Georgia's had a night game?
I think I was at it. UT Martin.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was a 6.
No, when's the last time Georgia had a prime time night game?
We counting at home or is it just
At home.
just at home? Okay, just
At home.
I think that was the last time they played Notre Dame.
Correct.
So yeah,
I want prime time night games for Georgia.
Okay.
Thank God the SEC is leaving CBS.
Yeah. So, and that's just it right there. That's audit. Now that's the top 10 matchup, no matter what. And we'll get into our predictions for the top 6 in the rankings here after we get done with this last game. But needless to say, it's going to be a top 10 matchup, possibly a top 9 matchup, depending on how much, if they decide to move Ole Miss up, how much they move up, all that. For all we know, they might move them down because it was such a close game with A&M.
This is true. I have one thing to say before we get into the final game, though.
Yeah.
The mullet grows stronger.
I thought he cut the mullet off.
Nah, the mullet grows, brother.
Hey,
The mullet grows.
fair enough. Gundy. Mike Gundy, buddy. He did it. He left an impression on Oklahoma. And what might be the final bedlam, I don't think it will be. I think there's going to be another
Last scheduled bedlam.
Yeah. They'll eventually reschedule it at some point. That might become their one out of conference game, for all we know. But what I do know is I now know why it's called Bedlam, because while Oklahoma has historically owned this series, it's Bedlam whenever Oklahoma State does upset them. It's pure chaos, and it is what it is. They're in the driver's seat, Oklahoma State is, to actually get to the Big 12 championship, while also having ended Big Brother's chance to get to the playoffs. So,
Hallelujah.
hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Not a big fan of Oklahoma, are you?
Horns down.
That's
I don't like Oklahoma or Texas,
fair enough. Fair enough.
to be completely honest.
Fair enough.
I hate both of them.
It's mainly the Texas fan base for me. I haven't really heard.
I don't like either fan base.
Like, the only bad Sooner I've ever seen is Boomer Sooner or Big Boomer Sooner, because he's got some terrible lists.
I can't stand him.
I guess there's not really much to say about this game. You know, Oklahoma State.
It's close.
Oklahoma State won in a close one. This is Oklahoma's second straight loss. They're on a bit of a downward spiral. Still a better season than last year, and they can still go they could still go 10-2 and potentially make a New Year's Six bowl. So nothing to really hang their head about. They lost both. No, they did not lose both their big rivalry games. I'm stupid. They beat Texas. They lost to Oklahoma
Horns down,
State,
baby.
but I think they've still got the rest of their schedule in front of them. They can get it figured out. This one's going a bit.
Chaos.
To be honest, this one is going a bit long, but we got one last thing to do. Our top 6.
No, it's fine.
What?
It's fine. We got nothing but time.
Yeah, fair. But, might as well go ahead and quit putting it off. We got our top 6 predictions, where we kind of put how we think the top 6 is going to shake out with the playoff committee tomorrow night, or tonight when you're watching this. This is being recorded on a Monday night. Hopefully it'll be up tonight, but some people won't get to it. Either way, do you want to kick it off, or should I?
I'll start us.
Okay, go for it.
I'm going to start at 6 and work my way down.
Yep.
6, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
5, Florida State.
Oh.
4, Washington. 3, Michigan. 2, Ohio State. Georgia 1.
Okay. Florida State dropping to 5 kind of threw me for a very split second. Then I was like, oh, well, Washington did beat a top 20 team. Should USC have been a top 20 team?
No, not a chance.
But the committee viewed them that way, so.
And Florida State struggled with Pitt. I mean, yeah, it was like 24-7. And it was like 7-7 until like the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that could knock them, if we're being honest. If I'm being honest, I think that could definitely knock them, but I'm struggling here. I'm struggling here because I'm of the same mindset as you, but I don't know if I wouldn't just have Florida State fall to 6 and Oregon get moved up to 5. You know?
I mean, Florida State still won.
Yeah, but
I only dropped them because Washington beat a top 25
and then you see
team.
what Oregon did this week.
Who did Oregon beat?
Let me go and double check real quick.
Nobody.
A nobody?
I don't know who they beat, to be completely honest. I can't remember.
I'm trying to find the dadgum score for it, but it's here's NCAA football. Oh, Jesus Christ. I swear, ESPN's such flipping hard thing.
I promise we're not unprepared people.
I swear we're not. We really aren't, but it's Georgia's got a 69.6% chance to beat Ole Miss, is what they're saying. I swear, people, we're not this unprepared. I swear, we're not. It's just one of those things. Utah. No, my bad. California, 63-19.
That's Cal. And they struggled with Cal early. They're staying at
California
6.
almost beat USC.
Exactly. But they didn't, and that's all that matters, because anything can happen on any given day.
Well, no, hear me out on this. Okay, Cal's 3-6. Pitt was 2-7. Or they might be 2-7 now. Either way, Cal's technically a better team than.
If that's what you want to do, you're welcome to do it. I just don't think the committee's going to do that.
Honestly, I don't think they will either. But I also think that if they don't see a reason to, they're not going to move a team. So I think I'm going to stick to the same rankings as last week. I think it's going to be Oregon 6, Washington 5, FSU 4, Michigan 3. Well, not last week, because I'm going to have Ohio State get moved down to 2 and Georgia up to 1. And the reason why I have that, well, because Georgia finally had a ranked win. A pretty big ranked win at that. So,
right,
is what it is.
And Ohio State struggled with.
Did they struggle though?
They struggled, almost covered. They did cover.
Yeah, they covered.
But it was very close until a very unfortunate pick six.
Yeah, late cover. So I mean, I don't know. Anyways,
struggle win.
Okay, funny man.
Jesus. All right. Well,
yeah, I think we're done.
I think that's all we got time for today. Do you have any closing thoughts?
So normally I try to keep it light and all that for the closing thoughts. Try to get a laugh or something. I just kind of want to say sorry for having my little bit of high school flashbacks when it came to my high school thing. Other than that, it's the most wonderful time of the year, people. We got Little Debbie Christmas tree cakes. Oh.
Are you okay?
I'm perfectly fine. I really am.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good. We'll see you guys on Friday.
Yeah, or Thursday, depending on when you watch it.
We'll see you guys on Friday.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Any Given Day podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and YouTube. You can find us under the name Any Given Day Podcast. Stay updated with our latest episodes and insights. And don't forget, the next episode will be out Friday, where we will preview some of the big games coming up this weekend. Until then, keep the spirit of the game alive. And remember, in this sport, anything can happen on any given day. See y'all on the next play.